Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Tibbs Farm. I'm Tibbs. I'm going to do things a little different today. I'm going to talk about the effects that allowing other people to get into your head can have. About 10, 11 years ago, I started becoming a prepper and was doing fairly well within the means that I had, getting all the different supplies, having a nice safety net in case something bad happened. Where I currently live, I am in a hurricane-prone zone, so the possibility of a strong storm coming through and taking out all the infrastructure is a real possibility. History has shown that infrastructure can actually be knocked out for weeks, months on end. So having the ability to be self-sufficient for the duration of infrastructure being down is actually a very wise idea. Back then, stocking up on stuff like that and being a prepper was considered a crazy conspiracy theorist idea. Everyone thought, oh, you're prepping, you're ready for the zombie apocalypse. No, I'm preparing for a possible hurricane, because that is actually a thing that happens here. I started trying to prepare myself in the event that our sun has a coronal mass ejection. The last major coronal mass ejection happened in the 1800s. Sure, technology that we had, telegraphs. If you've never heard of the Carrington event, I would advise looking into that. The sun is capable of sending out tiny fraction of the power it creates every second, directed straight at anything. If Earth ends up being in that shot blast, then we get hit with a very powerful electromagnetic fluctuation. The power lines, or at that time, the telegraph lines, acted as giant antenna, no different than the antenna on your car. Instead of taking in and having a radio station come in, it just created a very large energy surge. Numerous power or telegraph poles caught on fire. There was numerous reports of telegraph operators actually at their stations and getting electrocuted. If it were to happen today, we don't have telegraphs, but we do have power lines. And I'm sure everyone has gonna experience, maybe not firsthand see, but have been close enough to hear or have experienced a lightning bolt hitting either directly or close enough to a transformer. Transformer blows, and now you're without power. With a lightning storm, it gets fixed hours, days, maybe a couple weeks. Now imagine if every single transformer in Canada, America, Mexico, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, whatever country you're in. Imagine if every single transformer all blew. Do you think your local power station has enough transformers to get all of them replaced? How long do you think it would take them? If we get hit with the coronal mass ejection, you could see us having a blackout months, years, a decade, maybe more. Are you ready for that? I'm not. I said that I started prepping a decade ago. I also started this off saying the effects of allowing others to have on you. And at work, there's a lot of social activities that go on in the smoke pit. A lot of different topics can come up. And people realized that I was prepping and started making fun of me for it. I allowed that to get into my head. Had a bunch of other things going on at the same time. Company laid off. They laid off a lot of real good co-workers. It was overnight. The shop turned into a ghost town, and the workload didn't reduce, and it became rather depressing. And I only recently realized that, yes, I did experience or exhibit many signs of depression. I kept telling myself I couldn't be depressed. I lost focus on my life. I stopped caring about the hobbies that I had, things that brought me joy. I allowed my property to get completely overgrown. I mean, it wasn't pretty where I got it, but it's easily 20 times worse than it was. I used to absolutely love working on my trucks. I have a truck that I've let sit for 8 years now because I never had the motivation to get around to just fixing it. And it was something simple. An O-ring on a fuel filter. That's it. But I couldn't get myself motivated enough to go swap out that O-ring. I stopped prepping, started using all the supplies that I had, and now looking at supply shortages and food prices increasing, inflation. I think I just the other day read that inflation's now at 6.2%. I'm kicking myself in the butt because I had 10 years of a head start. I knew something like this was going to happen. I didn't know that it was going to be an economic hard turn. History tells us, yes, it's going to happen. Is that we will make it through this. We won't if we just sit around and do nothing. During the Great Depression, it wasn't just sit around and do nothing. People still went out and they still did what they needed to do to survive. And enough time and enough things happened that the market rebounded. In the 70s, you had not a depression, but a recession. I wasn't around then. Wasn't around for the depression either. But history books show that, yeah, things got tough. The year is 2021. It's been a long time since the 70s recession. It's been a while since the housing market bubble burst in recession of 2008. Recessions come, recessions go. Good times come, good times go. If you're in the stock markets, bull markets come, and bull markets go. It's all a cycle. Guess what? In the future, we're going to have another recession. Let this one be your lesson. Just like the one a decade ago I thought was my lesson. And then when times got good, I stopped caring. Take what you learn now and continue to implement it when times do get good. Be ready for the next time that recession hits. Don't let anyone ever make you feel bad for what you're doing. I was single back then, so I didn't have a family to think about then. How awesome would I feel right now knowing that I have enough stuff to last 2, 3, 5, 10 years, that I can take care of my family now without doing anything because of the stuff that I did then. That'd be an awesome feeling. Not saying that to do nothing because you have that supply, because that supply is not end all be all. That's your safety net. Right now I'm walking a tightrope. I don't have a safety net that I could have had. Could have built that safety net over the last 10 years. But I let people get into my head. At the end of the day, you are responsible for you. Those people that make fun of you, when times get hard, they're not going to be there to help you out. If it makes it easier, don't even talk to them about it. Just carry on like as if you're not putting things behind for a rainy day. Because they might laugh that you go on by canning supplies, grow a garden, and start canning your own goods. That you plant 10% more than what you're actually going to need, so that you can have that 10% to can for not this winter, but a rainy day. They wouldn't laugh if you went and said you're buying stocks so that one day you could go and retire early and live off of the dividends. They wouldn't make fun of you if you went and said, hey, you know what, I'm going to start cutting costs and I'm going to start putting more money into my savings account. They wouldn't laugh at you for that. They wouldn't laugh at you if you moved out of your house to something smaller with a lower payment because you wanted to save money. And even if they did, would you care? Would you care if they laughed at you because you're trying to save money? That you're trying to build a diverse portfolio for retirement? No. Because that's you taking care of you in the future. Getting the supplies that you need in the future now, no different than putting money away, investing. Because what happens if we do have power out for months or years and you have $1 million in the bank? Does no good if you can't access it. But what about that bottle of hydrogen peroxide or rubbing alcohol? Power goes out for years. You get a cut. You go and treat it so that it doesn't get infected. You have the bandages, so you go and keep it clean. You have food stored away. You've built the skill of gardening so that you know how to grow your food. You've built the skills of canning those foods so that you can keep them past harvest. It's no different than if you went and bought a bunch of stocks and lived off of the dividends. You're living off of your food. A lot of people are concerned about genetically modified organisms, or whatever GMO stands for, where they're taking genes from one species and splicing it into another species, and who knows what that actually does. Well, if you're growing your own garden, you can go and get the seeds that you know are heirloom, that you know have not been altered with gene splicing. If you're worried about pesticides and other agrochemicals, if you're growing your own garden, you know exactly what's being put into that. You don't have to question. And what's the worst that happens? Good times until you leave this world? Okay. Awesome. You stockpiled all of this food. It's food that you're already eating, right? You, right whenever some people say when you canned it, I know some people that say, nah, if this jar is good for 10 years on the shelf. I'm going to put 10 years from whenever I canned it so that I know, hey, this has to be eaten before this date. Good times? All right, cool. Those cans are starting coming up on their expiration date. Start eating. Stop wasting your money at the grocery store. Put that away to something else and eat from your supply. Worst case scenario, you become self-sufficient. Set your goals within reason. Don't let people go and talk you out of it. Remember that this is an investment to you, not them, you. No different than putting money away in the savings account, no different than buying stocks, no different than having an IRA. Think of it as your own personal food bank. It's a bank. You put things in it, right? For a later day. Medical cabinet. Medical bank. Bandages. But this is for you. Don't let people go and get in your head. Take now the inflation, supply chain, last year's toilet paper shortage. Take it as a learning lesson or a life lesson to diversify your portfolio in a much broader category of diversify. Because you don't want to end up having to be that guy that is using dollar bills for what rolls of white paper is supposed to be used for. I'm not a prepper. I was. I'm not. Not now. And I don't think I want to be anymore. Because there's a lot of connotations of the lone wolf buying all these guns, all this ammunition, being prepared for the zombie apocalypse. I don't think that's realistic. I want to be a homesteader. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build my homestead. Try to be as self-sufficient as we can be. It takes baby steps. The livestock that I show you here on this channel, 1 year ago, we didn't have them. 1 year ago, where I'm sitting, we wouldn't be able to go and actually have this video be filmed because the underbrush was too thick. I didn't start clearing out this because I thought it was going to be fun. I started clearing out this because our front yard started getting smaller and smaller and started getting very claustrophobic and rather depressing. And the more I cleared, the more I felt better about salmon land being opened up. If times get real hard and it's impossible to get food from the store, we do have the ability to continue feeding ourselves. Maybe not indefinitely, but hopefully long enough until the supply chain picks back up. And that's all it is. Just like a savings account. In case you get laid off, you hope you have enough money to make it until you can get another job. It's not to live off of forever. It's until you can go and start having that income come back in. I know I've been rambling for a long while, and I'm sorry. Maybe this video helps just one person. If just one person is inspired or has the discouragement taken from them and they feel encouraged and don't feel alone, then I did my job. Even if nobody takes anything from this, you know what? It's out there. I'm going to call it a day. I hope each and every one of you have a phenomenal day. Have a phenomenal weekend. If you're working, I hope your work's not too stressful. I hope you're not overworked. If you have a weekend, I hope it's great weather. I hope you have a relaxing weekend. Recharge your batteries. I hope every single one of you have a very great day.